Hi everybody, this is Simon from TheTriathlonCoach.com. As you can see, probably with the sun shining over me here, it's coming into the spring and it's time for you to start thinking about swimming in open water. Something I love. I can't wait for this time of year. Some of my friends aren't particularly keen on it, but hey ho. Anyway, one of the things I've learned over the years is a lot of people just jump into the lake or the river with no reason, no real idea of what they're going to do. They just go and swim, and I think they're missing the point. So in my first presentation, and there will be more of these, I've outlined a few things that I think you should be considering when you go down to the lake next. So here we go, over here in red, the whys of open water swimming. For enjoyment. If you just want to go down and splash in the water for an hour, that's absolutely fine. If you want to achieve something more in your triathlons, then you need to have some specificity about what you do. Something that is specific to the race that's coming up. So every race has different skill requirements, it has different intensities, so you need to match what's going to be required in your event to the type of training you're going to do, and I'll come back to that in a little moment. There's also the open water skills. It's not like swimming in the pool. There's no black line to follow, there's no wall to turn off, there's no lane ropes to swim in between. You're pretty much on your own, and one of the big problems that a lot of people have is navigation, finding their way, swimming too far because they're zigzagging along instead of focusing on a point in the distance. So we'll talk about that in a little while too. The next thing is, when should we be swimming in the open water? If you've got a race coming up, I'd say as soon as possible. And you'll see I've written a but there, and the but relates to the fact that the temperature of the water is a lot colder this year than it has been in previous years, which means that if your lake's open soon, you're going to be getting in there and it's going to be very cold, or, as is the case in Leeds here, you're probably not going to be able to go down to the lake until it's safe to do so. Now you should probably check on the British Triathlon website if you want to know what the safe temperatures are, but if it's 11 degrees you're probably only going to be able to swim for 500 metres, which is 10 or 15 minutes. Probably a good idea actually, just to acclimatise. You certainly don't want to be trying to swim for an hour in that temperature unless you've been swimming cold open water for quite some time. So really do check about the water temperature and just bed yourself in slowly. Once a week will be enough for most people. You can get some great conditioning in the pool, and I recommend that you continue with your pool swimming. But I'd suggest once a week up to your race, as long as it's safe. Now, where should you swim? Well, there are now more open water venues springing up around the country. Most clubs have access to somewhere where they can go and swim. But there's one thing I would advise you to do. Please don't go and swim in open water on your own. If something was to happen, even if you're a strong swimmer, you could be swimming in the river and bang your head on a tree branch that's floating down. You're knocked unconscious. By the time somebody finds you, it could be too late. If you're with somebody, there's a good chance that it's a bit safer. So please, don't go and swim on your own. Most club venues or the commercial venues that you get around near London have lifeguards and water safety, so you're much better off there. So try to get a venue where there's other people around and they really do cater for groups of people to swim. So the what, this is the most important stuff. This is what relates back to the specificity and the why here. Here are my suggestions for the volume of training relating to the type of event you're doing. So if you're doing a sprint event, I'd say you should be looking to swim somewhere up to about 2 kilometres. In your event it's going to be 750 metres. You probably need to be swimming a little bit more distance than that. So anything up to 2k is fine. If you're doing standard distance or half Ironman, 70.3, where your event distance is 1500 or 1900 metres, then you need to be considering swimming between 2 and 3k a session. And if you're doing Ironman, where your race distance is nearly 4k, then you want to at least be doing 3k in a session. Now think about that. In terms of more open water skills, definitely think about your conditioning. If you're doing a 1900 metre 70.3 race, you can bet that the first few hundred metres is going to be quite frenetic, and then it'll settle down. So your session should go something like 200 or 300 metres, 400 metres of warm-up, stop, go and do one lap, swimming the first few hundred metres fast, and then settle into a cruise for the remaining 2 laps. I will be coming back with another presentation with more detail on what you should be doing, so I won't cover that now. in terms of the conditioning. But other skills you might want to work on are deep water starts, if your race is going to include that, practicing turning around the buoys that are out there, practicing swimming in a group, learning how to draft off people, doing a deep water start with 10 or so people around you so you get used to having your arm knocked and people tapping you on the feet. And the area that I think causes most problems is sighting. People don't look up enough when they breathe. They don't look up enough to navigate from fixed points on the land, so they go off course. It's not uncommon for people to think that their swimming is poor and they're slower than they are in the pool, but in fact they're probably swimming the same pace, it's just that they've swum a greater distance. So that's it for the moment. Next week I'm going to come back with a lot more detail, and I'm going to give you some very specific sessions, conditioning and intensity sessions that you can be doing for each of these particular race distances. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you again in 7 days' time. Bye for now.